Now let's go for a complete change of gear, as they say. Let's go to motorbikes, in particular the somewhat esoteric subject of front suspension for motorbikes. They often say the simplest ideas are the best. Well, we've come across a new idea for the design of the front suspension. It is simple, it looks very effective, what's more, it's British. Can we hope for a resurgence of the virtually defunct British motorcycle industry? Here's Tom Boswell with the details.
In this day and age, both racing and for road use, we have the common telescopic fork on almost every bicycle. Some scooters have complicated leading and trailing links and systems like that. As you move over bumps, the bottom end of the forks moves in and out with the pistons and the springs moving inside this tube, which is carefully ground here. The disadvantage is that when you're braking or cornering heavily, the forces at the bottom, where the wheel is mounted, move the axle back, and a very slight bowing effect occurs, either this way or this way. And that, of course, jams or slightly seizes up the pistons and accurately ground parts which are within this finely made tube here. Well, these forks on this new bike look entirely different, don't they? Much thinner, different sort of structure altogether. Norman Hossack, you've invented this machine, you've designed it, you've built it. What on earth prompted you to set off on this venture in the first place?
Well, about 5 years ago, when this idea gelled in my mind, I was working with Bruce McLaren Motor Racing, and rigidity is what I was hoping to achieve, which was easily available in car racing through this type of technology, and I decided to try and adapt that to motorcycling.
I see. Well, can you explain briefly how it works? It looks to me at first extraordinarily complicated.
It's not really complicated. It's rather similar to that you might find on the front of a car. There is a upright here.
That's to replace the normal front forks, which on a normal machine compress up and down.
Correct. And two wishbones, a lower wishbone and a top wishbone. And these wishbones work together.
Rather like on the front wheels of a lot of racing cars. Or and the back wheels come to
Very
that.
similar, yes.
Yeah.
And by riding like that, they allow the machine to ride over the bumps. And there, let's demonstrate.
Ah, now it looks a little bit simpler, but you've got two more wishbones here. Can you explain what they are for?
These two wishbones do the same thing as the steering joints on the average car. They simply allow the steering to be accomplished.
But it seems to me somewhere we've lost a pair of springs and a pair of dampers. What's happened to those?
Well, we only need one in this case, which I've put here underneath the tank.
Oh, I see, under the petrol
It
tank,
operates
yeah.
onto the lower wishbone through an arm here, and you can see it moving there.
Now, what about the handling of this machine? How does it compare to a normal bike? I know myself, cornering on a normal machine is always a problem.
Yes, well, one of the things I set out to try and achieve, the conventional machine has the disadvantage that as the front suspension dives under braking, because the angle of the front forks is steep,
Yes.
As the springs compress, you have a certain loss of wheelbase. This loss of wheelbase upsets the balance of the machine to a certain extent. In the case of this machine, I've got around that by virtue of the fact that the front wheel rides vertically. I don't have the loss of wheelbase under braking.
Well, there it is, a very, very practical, easy to drive motorcycle. And although this is a racing machine, it would be quite easy to make a road version out of it, which would be cheaper and safer than anything currently on the market. Now, the thing is a British manufacturer going to help Norman Hossack, or like so many other things, is this invention going to go abroad?